You could barely watch an episode of my favourite Prime Video series, The Boys, to know that Grand Big Bad Homelander is not all that he appears to be. A red, white and blue adorned superhero, or Soup, leader of the premier team The Seven, and an incredibly powerful force to be reckoned with, Homelander fights for truth, justice and the, Vort's way. It's clear that the wholesome hero image is a work of fiction, a brand identity that Vought International have carefully constructed to appeal to the widest audience possible, and just like the legendary comic book heroes Homelander pastiches, the Soup has a private alter ego, of sorts. Behind closed doors he's vindictive, spiteful and calculating, but as the series goes on this duality becomes expanded upon and we see more than just two sides to Homelander. Through the trauma that shaped him, the depths of his depravity, and the people who are adept at controlling his behaviour, we learn that Homelander is a man of many faces. Actor Anthony Starr believes there's more to Homelander than Vought would have you believe, but which, if any of these identities, represents the true Homelander?
I think he would believe that he's the most misunderstood character on the show, and I think, to be honest, I think he's the weakest character on the show.
Are these sides to the character who he really is, or are they merely masks to conceal his true identity? Homelander continuously uses masks to hide his true self from the world and appease those above him and beneath him. By exploring every iteration of this terrifying villain, maybe, just maybe, we might see his true face. When considering Homelander's masks, it makes sense to look at the archetypal superhero blueprint and the character with whom he represents a twisted mirror image: Superman. In Kill Bill Volume 2, director Quentin Tarantino uses the eponymous villain as a mouthpiece to shed light on the duality between Superman and Clark Kent. The Tarantino theory makes a decidedly contrarian point.
When Superman wakes up in the morning, he's Superman. His alter ego is Clark Kent.
It's an interesting notion and holds weight. When he is Superman, he can show his kindest self as well as the true limits of his power. When he is Clark Kent, he is essentially playing a long game of deceit. It's an idea that has been explored with a whole host of other superheroes too. It's easy to see that playboy heartthrob Bruce Wayne is concocted by the billionaire to distract the public.
This is your mask.
In the case of Homelander, I believe it is the superhero identity that provides his critique of humanity instead.
Alright! You fucking cocksuckers.
To the general public, he's exactly what it says on the tin. He's a superhero that drops out of the sky to save you from some crooks and will even take a selfie afterwards. How sweet. In the name of the game, Billy Butcher states that the public love the warm and cosy feeling Soups give them. Someone to sweep in and save them.
So you don't go and do it yourself.
So it feels like Homelander's wishy-washy corporate-approved statements and well-wishes are Homelander's way of mocking regular people.
Come on now, you guys made it.
He essentially agrees with Butcher's summation of humanity's obsession with Soups and plays to it with glee. He appears to relish any and every opportunity to play hero Homelander with a sadistic grin hiding just beneath the surface. Then again, we know that his public image has been moulded by Madeline Stillwell and the rest of Vought International. This personality is born out of Vaught's idea as to who he should be. The mockery is the mask slipping just a little, a chance for him to push past Vaught's words and show a piece of himself to the world. More on that in a moment. The Boy Scout iteration of the character morphs ever so slightly whenever Homelander deals with the Seven. In front of the Soup team, he is a corny father figure talking down to the other members like children he has to tell off.
It is fair to say that I am disappointed.
Or maybe he's just a superpowered David Brent talking to his office, I don't know.
I know that you want to make this whole deep thing and all the single ladies moment power, right?
Perception. Yeah.
Even though these people are more like him, he still mocks them all the same. They might be powerful, but they are not as powerful as him. He treats them like snotty-nosed children because he can. Occasionally, this father figure Homelander appears to manifest in a seemingly more honest way.
I love you. Family.
But behind this veneer of openness and mentorship, Homelander makes sure the other members of the Seven fear him. His taunts are often subtextual, hidden beneath that same creepy exterior that purports to be kind and caring.
I'll always be watching over you.
It's usually what Homelander isn't saying that manages to scare the Seven. Homelander's relationship to Stillwell reveals another side to him. Stillwell is essentially Homelander's boss, and she manages every aspect of his public image with a watchful eye. It is Stillwell that decides what he can and can't do, like a kid with pocket money allowance. And even though Homelander is often frustrated by the fact that Stillwell tells him what to do, he is truly subservient to her wishes. He craves her attention and even appears to look at Teddy, Stillwell's actual son, with deep-seated jealousy, as if the two of them are competing for her affection. Stillwell has a hold over him and talks down to him just like she would her own son in order to coerce him into staying obedient. Also, they have a sexual component to their relationship, and it gets all kind of Oedipal up in here, and it's all kinds of gross. Stillwell has a firm grip on Homelander's choices, but just like any grumpy teenager, Homelander seeks to rebel when he feels he's not being valued or taken seriously.
What they want is a little John Wayne, frontier justice. And that is what I do.
Which leads us to another side of Homelander, Homelander the Patriot, which dovetails very neatly with Homelander the God. At the Believe Expo, Homelander is given a PR-friendly apolitical speech to deliver to the crowd. At a time where Stillwell is trying to get Supes brought into the military, she doesn't want to risk alienating anyone. Homelander needs to be squeaky clean. Instead,
Some people, they want me to come out here and speak empty platitudes to you all. A little bit of corporate talk. But I don't want to do that.
Homelander positions himself as a hero for America, not the world. It's interesting to note that even though this isn't the side of Homelander Vought wants the world to see, it isn't necessarily a true depiction of his personality as much as it is a different angle to the same brand politics. Homelander isn't giving the crowd a piece of himself honestly, like Starlight does. He's a salesman telling them what he thinks they want to hear.
Psalm 58:10. The righteous shall rejoice when he sees the vengeance.
He's more than happy to reinvent himself and modify his behaviour for any given situation and audience, should it get him what he wants, or what Vought wants. It's also important to know that even though he speaks of himself as an agent of God, the Supe levitates above everyone and revels in the way that they worship him. Captain America, he is definitely not.
You know, the last time I was in Germany and saw a man standing above everybody else, we ended up disagreeing.
But you know what, maybe I'm being unfair. As long as Homelander saves people, that's something, right?
You stay the fuck back or I'll laser you, goddammit! I'll laser every fucking one of you!
We definitely see some truth to Homelander in one of the most horrifying moments of the series, the plane rescue, in episode 4, The Female of the Species. They have no people skills beyond pre-packaged PR baloney, something that becomes all the more clear when Homelander is given a very real, very deadly situation to contend with.
There you go, just relax.
Queen Maeve could have dealt with this, you know, she was much closer and arguably could have disarmed the hijacker's weapon without a single shot being fired, but Homelander has a much better idea. Pretty sure that most people could have figured out that firing off intense heat beams in a tiny cockpit is a terrible idea, but nah, Homelander isn't a master tactician because he doesn't have to be. The loss of life sustained by his woefully misguided actions don't have a cost in his eyes. In the comics, Butcher explains to Huey that the acceptable casualty rate for a hostage situation in the eyes of the police is a loss of around 20%. But for Supes, it's closer to around 60%. This serves to highlight the fact that even though these superpowered vigilantes can concoct a good speech or successfully stop an armed robbery, they have no formal training or professional experience. They're employees given a task to do at the end of the day when they were hoping to leave on time.
If you bring those passengers back alive, not one congressman will have the balls to vote against our bill.
They don't care about saving the innocent or seeing justice served. This is a chore to complete off a checklist.
Lift the plane up.
Lift the plane? How? There's nothing to stand on.
He might be right, but that shouldn't matter. In Superman the movie, the titular hero flies around the world so hard he reverses time to save the day. In Avengers Endgame, Captain America straps in and stands against Thanos and his entire army, knowing full well he's about to be decimated. In Spider-Man 2, the webhead tries and fails repeatedly to stop the runaway train. Knowing the situation is doomed and fighting those impossible odds anyway is what it's all about. Whereas Homelander is happy to say,
We're done here.
this isn't just terror, this is the passengers losing their religion. They bought into a world where this guy was a perfect avenger, a god essentially. Homelander isn't a benevolent monotheistic god, he's a god of mythology, he's Zeus. He's worshipped, people buy into him and the ideals that come part and parcel with his brand, but he's driven by his own needs and will enact his will upon humanity regardless of their say. The Greek gods were often depicted as being driven by pure instinct and pleasure, as are the members of the Seven. Vought Tower is their Olympus. It's pompous and overbearing and makes you see things like the Avengers Tower in a new light. Homelander, the superhero, the god, the patriot, it's entirely performative. But that doesn't mean that this aggressive, malicious Homelander is necessarily the man behind the mask either.
That little egg of yours is still scrambled, huh?
Even though there is some truth to this side of him, yes, it's important to understand the side of him that is also a victim. Superman writer Marv Wolfman disagrees with Tarantino's idea that Superman is the true alter ego.
Superman, or rather Kal-El, came to Earth as an infant. All of his morality, all of his viewpoint comes from the Kents. Therefore, he's the right person, he's the real person.
Rather than suggesting that Kent is a critique of humanity, the Wolfman theory posits that both Superman and Clark are shaped equally by their origins, and both hold truth in some way. With that in mind, we should look to Homelander's all-American wholesome origins to deduce what he really represents. Right?
What kind of place did you grow up in?
Well, I moved around a lot, so it was a bunch of condos.
So what if I took you to a house you'd never seen before, full of photos of parents you never met, toys you never played with, Hardy Boy books that you never read?
In what is perhaps Homelander's most tragic scene, we see him forced to act in front of the cameras and pretend that this Clark Kent-style, all-American upbringing on a farm was what he got.
Most of the time, me and my dad would be making model planes. I can almost smell the silver paint.
There's something so heartbreaking watching him act this out, as if Vought is teasing him with the life he never got. He's actually a really good actor too, implying that he has an understanding of human emotions and how to ape them, even if he isn't in touch of his own.
My dad, he always said, surround yourself with people smarter than you.
How many times has Homelander had to make up inspiring quotes from his non-existent mother and father? Instead, we learn that Homelander was raised in a lab without love or affection or the warmth of other human beings.
You should have been raised in a home with a family who loved you, not in a cold lab with doctors. I'm sorry.
I don't want your fucking apology.
It's no wonder we never get to see his true face. Homelander never got a chance to work out what sort of person he wanted to be.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details. Just like her.
Okay. Perfect. So great.
So we done?
Yes.
All right.
In this regard, Homelander shares more in common with Superman, just not the true canon Superman. Homelander skews much closer to the alternate future Superman as seen in Injustice: Gods Among Us. Both are shaped by trauma, although I'd argue that of the two, Homelander is less responsible. Superman was a weathered hero, an adult, and he decided to throw away his values and install a totalitarian government as a way of indirect revenge for the slights against him. He was indeed shaped by his origins, as Wolfman would suggest, but madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push. Homelander was a baby when he was experimented on. He spent his childhood without love, without compassion. He had all of his choices taken away. As an adult, he had no time to ruminate on these choices and mould himself into something he could stand for. Across the first season, Homelander goes on a journey of self-discovery. He begins to question the circumstances of his upbringing, the love that he has missed out on, and he begins to question the lies he is constantly fed to keep him in line. As he starts to uncover the truth behind Vaught's covering up of Homelander's secret son, Stillwell's grip over him starts to wobble.
Maybe we could order in and catch up. Just me and you.
What? That sounds amazing. But you go be mommy.
When Homelander finds out that he had fathered a child, he asks,
Is it a boy
After witnessing all these different false versions of Homelander, I think there is some truth that comes out here. Some instinct kicks in, maybe even some semblance of love for a child he brought into this world that he could rescue from Vaught's cold, cruel clutches. Or maybe he was merely worried about an usurper to his throne. It depends on how cynical you want to be here. It all comes to a head in the final scene of the final episode. Butcher has taken Stillwell hostage and means to hurt Homelander by taking away someone he cares about.
I'm just gonna hurt you. I mean, really fucking hurt you. And that'll be good enough for me.
You would think, given all that we have seen, that using Stillwell would be the perfect way to get Homelander to dance to your tune. Instead, Homelander commands the room.
Please take him upstairs.
Hold on.
Take him upstairs. Shut the fuck up!
In a role reversal, Homelander applies pressure to Stillwell by using her weakness against her. In this case, her son Teddy, the child Homelander despises for drawing her attention away from him.
You care more about that fucking baby than you do about me.
Even Butcher isn't half as tough, realising all too late that Stillwell no longer has the hold over Homelander she once did.
Did it ever occur to you that they split your spine? Or broke your dick? Just for a laugh? Where's your fucking rage?
What was that plan again?
Homelander can't be fooled any longer. He knows her motherly love for him is just as much a work of fiction as the speeches she has him read. He's an asset to her and nothing more. He validates his power and sense of self by coaxing one more truth out of her.
Instead, I'm scared.
Of
you. I'm scared of you.
Thank you. Thank you for finally being honest.
More than a year on from when I first watched this, seeing Homelander murder Stillwell still shocks me. And just when it couldn't get any worse for poor old Billy Butcher, he watches from the sidelines as Homelander joins his newfound family.
I'm your father. We are a family.
What does this mean for Season 2? Now that Homelander has discovered a legitimate, as of this moment, untarnished human connection in his son, will it allow him to dig a little deeper and discover a brighter side to him that is true to his own self? Or will he double down on his darkest tendencies, allowing himself to be controlled by Vought and ultimately remain a pawn to do their nefarious bidding? But just remember, you guys watching and remembering to like, share and subscribe, you guys are the real heroes. The Boys is so good because it forever changes the heroes we look at as paragons of good. It follows in the footsteps of Watchmen, deconstructing superheroes with an unyielding nihilism. And just like the characters that graced Alan Moore's seminal work, Homelander is more than just a signifier for good and evil. I have a feeling we've yet to discover all the layers of complexity to this fantastic character.